So here we are in central London and about to look at Man's Fashion. The Man Fashion show is a show which takes certain young designers, this time 3, and it gives them fabulous exposure. We are, of course, talking to you from London, where London Collections Men has just started, and this is one of the most interesting ones because usually there are some very revolutionary things. Harris, would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Harris Elliot, Creative Director and Stylist.
My name is Stephen Jones and I'm a milliner.
I'm Mark Lebon and I'm semi-retired fashion photographer and sort of producer, director-y thing.
I'm Jodie Harsh, I'm a DJ, producer and I do parties.
Indeed you do. Indeed you do. Right, but whilst we're waiting for them to start, because it isn't just London, but London does always seem to be slightly later than most cities, but it's all part of the building up of the excitement, of course. Harris, what do you think about this idea of a very well-known high street brand, Topshop, funding young designers? Should it be done more often, or do you think that eventually it has a deleterious effect upon the designers in that they start thinking too commercially too soon? Although I don't think these lot will be thinking commercially.
I think it needs to happen, and I think it's about time, and I think not only Top Man but more brands should put their money where their mouth is and actually start investing in younger designers. I think it's definitely a good initiative. If it means that they start thinking commercially too soon, probably it means that they do, but some designers some of their collections aren't as avant-garde as they think they are, so some of them should probably think more commercially than they actually do. But those that are the kind of the artists among the new kind of kids that are coming out, I think they should just definitely go for it as much as possible. Use the funding to make their names and make a statement as strong as possible to kind of get themselves out there.
Well, certainly this gives them fantastic profile, amazing profile.
You can't get better exposure than this launching
absolutely not.
At Men's Fashion Week.
Because at the moment the whole world is looking at London to save or revivify men's fashion. Do you think that'll happen, Jodie?
Yeah, I think London's a very exciting place culturally at the moment. You know, it always has been, but I think right now, street culture, club culture, of course, all the young designers are always out in the clubs and stuff. I think that in music-wise, London musicians are sort of taking over the world's charts. I think it's just a very exciting cultural place at the moment, London.
Do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Jones?
Well,
Stephen
absolutely,
Jones?
London's the place.
Because you know about, sorry, just to give you a little bit of a more of an introduction, you were one of the great clubbers of the past, and probably still are today.
Oh, if on a guest list, absolutely. But it's the only reason I go. But yeah, London's the centre of it. I mean, every design studio I go to in the world, all their tear sheets are from London. Yeah, there's a few from Italian Vogue as well, but they're all from London-based magazines, pictures of people going out to clubs at night. London's where it's at. But you were saying before about Top Man sponsoring the show, and it's great because they're doing for men's what they've done for women's for a long time.
True.
And it's sort of extraordinary that it's taken this long for men's to catch up. Because if you think of, Paris is a feminine city, but London's a masculine city, and that's what we've done so well. And it's great that the powers of be have actually organised this at last.
Yeah, I'm interested and surprised, really, and I don't know if you have anything to say about this, Mark, but it seems to me quite strange that a very high street brand is looking at menswear, particularly young menswear, because it's usually quite unsellable and frequently unwearable.
Yeah, well,
which isn't the case with women's wear.
Well, I don't know really what the history of it is. I seem to remember that Milan was the people who used to show men's fashion, and I might be completely wrong about this, but I thought we didn't have a menswear fashion week until quite recently. Isn't that quite a recent
Well, the
arrival?
new revised and revivified one this is the third season. Third season.
But what happened before? It was just showrooms. I mean, was there an official fashion week even for men's?
It was tacked on to the end of
yes,
Women's Fashion Week,
right.
but it was just one day.
A day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think it was
one
only
day.
in Milan that they had a proper menswear. You know,
Yes.
I think it's the thing is that the whole thing of having a menswear fashion week is actually quite a new thing.
Oh, not really.
No?
They've been doing it in Paris and Milan for quite a few years now. And New York as well, of course. We forget New York, but New York's is tagged on to the end of their women's
So
wear.
the other two aren't tagged on.
No, they've always been sort of freestanding.
So there is a little bit of a catch-up situation, and I think for me that sort of signifies that that's actually quite important, because England's had that influence on menswear, I think, and has certainly inspired Paris. Well, I know it's inspired people like Jean-Paul Gaultier and everything like that, all the street fashion that was going on. But it's great that it's actually manifested itself officially now. I think it's way overdue, and it's I think it's still sort of in its early stages.
British
sure.
menswear's come
After
home.
just
kind of thing,
seasons.
Yeah.
I wish that we could have fashion weeks here, which are weeks. It starts Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it finishes 3 days, which gives you some idea that it's not quite as buoyant as we would like to think, because when Paris and Milan have their fashion weeks, men's fashion weeks, they are weeks, I think. Not sure about now.
But then they've got the benefit of having a lot of huge fashion houses that have been showing there for years and will continue doing that. We have quite a few strong brands here, but not many of them can show here because their financial markets are based in the
We've had a
Paris
few
or
come
Milan.
back though, haven't we? A few designers have come back over to London to show from,
Oh, sure.
from Paris
Yes,
and Milan, which is
absolutely.
Westwood. Just
Yes,
stuff,
and of course Burberry.
Burberry.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course,
Come
yeah.
back. Tom
Even the-
Ford's here
Yeah.
now. I think one of the great problems for young designers in this country is they don't get into accessories quickly enough, or their names aren't big enough for someone buying something in the airport to think, oh, I'll buy my wife that purse, or I'll buy my son that wallet.
The fragrance. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I think this is the only reason, in my opinion, why we all tend to think, will they last? Will they survive? Will they make it? And it's because they have to do it, largely speaking, on the sales of the clothes.
Yep.
And as I hope we'll see in a few minutes, probably most of the clothes that we'll see now in the next 20 minutes or whatever it is would be quite unwearable anywhere but in the most extreme fashionable parts of London. And that, I think, is a problem. And I don't know how you get around that, really, because well, I know how you get around. I do know how you get around. We all know how you get around it. You find you're a designer. You go and find a little leather worker somewhere up in Yorkshire or mid Wales or something, and say, right, do me 50.
But they hardly exist anymore, those little
not
leather
many.
workers.
Oh, they exist, but they're much more than you think. There are lots of little people.
But I know
working away.
there are lots and lots of Italian manufacturers who are really looking for young, groovy labels to produce their accessories as well. It's weird that the two things aren't joining together. Maybe through something like this they will do that.
Well, you see, we've got to be very careful. This applies to women's wear as well, in that the Italians and the French are thinking, what have we got that London hasn't got? We all know they're very jealous of London. They're looking at us with a degree of fear. And they still have the artisans and the craftsmen and the people who do extraordinary things. And I think we've still got them, but the fashion, there's been
They've got the mafia.
And they've got the
You
mafia.
see, that's the important thing. We haven't got the mafia.
Tell us more, Mark.
Well, I don't really know. I only heard a very little story about it, but
Tell us a
you
story.
know, I've heard this story about couture last night, that they sort of put all of these. They put their design out to a whole load of different makers, and they get them all to make them, and it's the person who finishes first that actually gets the contract. That actually the piece is the piece, and then all the other pieces they buy and just sell on the side.
Who told you that?
I can't even remember who I was with this morning. That's very odd.
Shulman.
Yeah, anyway, it's probably a lie, but
I think it's a bit of a stretch, don't
Yeah.
you? I'm not sure.
but I
about
know.
it.
Well, anyway, I know.
But it's
that
a good story.
The finance comes from somewhere, and that recently, I feel England, you know, in the last 5 or 10 years, there's obviously been a much more positive move with people sponsoring things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it started to happen here, and it seems that, you know, some headway is being made. But I think there's sort of some elite sort of situation that exists in Paris and in Italy that sort of supports the fashion business in the past in a much stronger way than it's been supported.
Well, they
here.
you know, they had in Milan they have the Camera della Moda, and in Paris they have the Chambre syndicale. They have been exceedingly strong bodies for a long time, and now we've got a very, very strong and buoyant British Fashion Council.
But particularly for established businesses, I mean, in Italy and Paris, if you're a young designer, it's really, really difficult, more or less impossible to make a name, because all the promotion, all the money is being given to, you know, whether it's Dior or Armani or whoever it is. But in England, you know, their young designers internationally come to England to show their wares, and go to college, of course.
Yes, but that does make me think that maybe in the long run, Paris and Milan will win out and London might drop again. What do you think?
I reckon that there was a lot of scepticism once when they were announcing having a men's fashion week, whether it was kind of doing like a token gesture, because the Paris and Milan and New York markets are so strong. So, and I think the jury's still out. I mean, for all of the young designers' sake, I do hope it continues, because they do need a platform, and it's everyone says just go and show in Paris, but it's not easy for young designers to literally just go up and set up a trade show in Paris, because it's really expensive. But
Are Burberry part of this English Fashion Week, or are they not an English
Yes, they
company?
are. Yes, they are. They show.
They show. They do show.
Yes.
So I think, you know, as long as we've got some really good, strong names like
Well,
that.
we've got Burberry, we've got Tom Ford.
Paul Smith attended
Dolce & Gabbana last night did a very small show to open their shop, which was them jumping on a bandwagon, really. And of course, the British Fashion Council also jumped on a bandwagon, saying we've got Dolce & Gabbana opening London Fashion Week. Which
That's quite odd.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Rubbish,
And
really.
Paul Smith, yeah?
Paul Smith, of course, he's always
Right,
been a backer and a stalwart.
Yeah.
He hasn't always shown.
Right.
He still does his menswear in Paris.
Still shows his men.
Oh, well, you see, it's things like that. They need to come home to really give it the weight.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's got the weight, actually, Mark. What I think they need to do now is... we're
here we are.
starting. We're starting. Just comment as you feel
So who are we starting with?
you wish to.
That's,
We don't know yet.
It's not Craig.
Can you guess?
It's not Craig, it's
No.
Bobby.
I think it's
Bobby.
Bobby, because he uses
yeah.
lots of bears.
It's
Yeah.
Bobby, is it?
Great print,
Yeah.
woven, straw print.
It's more commercial than what he's done in the past.
I was
Yeah.
just going
Yeah.
to say this is very clever because it is commercial.
But yeah, printed T-shirts and things is so wearable for anyone, aren't they?
Because in the past he's done pieces I've seen a bit more S&M or slightly inspired by bondage, but in like Mickey Mouse kind of colours.
The colours are really wearable as well. It's not so bright and garish.
Actually, it's really very understated. It's,
Yeah.
which, you know, is a sign of some sort of maturity, I suppose. What sort of price would these, Harris, what sort of price would these
Imagine a top
be
like that
likely to
probably
go for?
be about 180, 200 pounds, I'd imagine. That's the other problem that young designers have, is being
Yeah.
able to produce things at kind of competitive prices,
Yes.
because their numbers are so small. But that's strong.
Do we have a written story or a concept of the collection?
It looks kind of schoolboy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, we've been,
Backpacks
well, we've been playing with that for a long time with English menswear. Men who want to be boys.
Mm.
I think that'll be going on for a while.
Nice grounds.
Yeah, because it still hasn't really disseminated.
Properly, yeah.
You know, we see it in London, but you know, I have a house down in Wales, and I go to my local town is Monmouth.
You won't see anything like this down there. No.
They'd be stoned if they appeared
Yeah.
in
Literally.
pink.
Cartoon influence coming in. With prints.
Do you ever feel that you could be too far ahead of the buying public when you see lace for men and see-through and
I mean, I'll push it
diaphany?
as far as you can go. So you're asking the wrong person.
Lace,
Like-
organza, baby
Fabulous.
pink, you'll do it.
Um,
Would you wear organza trousers?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you?
Me? No, sadly not. But I do remember once there was a fabulous scene in Dior when Anna Piaggi came in, and they were all very, very slim-fitted organza dresses. And the PR said to her, "Sorry, Mrs. Piaggi, nothing will fit you." And she said she picked up a dress, column dress, and just tied it around her neck in a big bow and said, "That'll fit perfectly." So maybe I'll just tie those trousers around my neck.
Yeah, because it's also that it would have been given to her rather than having to buy it. So I think I'd certainly wear it if it was given to me.
It's a big help. It's a big incentive.
It's a big
You
incentive.
always used to wear
incentive.
shorts anyway.
Yeah.
You were like the big short wearer.
Yeah,
of
I'd wear
London.
skirts
Yeah.
and shorts and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I like the length of that. Mammoth used to do some.
So, instant opinion.
I think it's lots of the pieces were very wearable for men,
Okay.
for your
Yeah.
average man.
Yeah.
Mark?
I love baggy, and I love so that suits me.
Okay.
There's a lot of baggy there.
I loved it. I loved the straw print particularly, and
Yes.
that bag which is just going past that looked great, really fresh.
Yes.
It is completely wearable. It's very London, and it's kind of very, very now, so it's not too extreme. So I think international buyers, whether it's the Asian market, I think could definitely pick up on it
Yeah.
and actually spend some money.
I think
to
a
avoid-
good buyer could get quite a lot of stuff out
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
What I like, what you see as they all come out at the end, it's really a very coherent statement.
Yeah.
The colours are controlled, the shapes are controlled. It's just a question of whether you like those shapes and colours, I guess.
And if you're showing a collection of 15 outfits or something, that it has to be concise.
Absolutely.
Not a mess.
So what do we think is the strongest? I'll tell you what I think was the strongest. That was the lovely sort of plaited sort of print at the beginning.
I'd agree. It's the straw kind
Yeah.
of. For me, it's the straw.
Yeah.
Kind
The
of,
first
yeah,
looks.
the
It
print,
was, it was really good, that.
I think the stripy t-shirt was the most wearable, and the kind of see-through mesh trousers, I think, were the kind of most exciting thing in there.
But they could be one for boys and for girls. which
Absolutely,
therefore
yeah, it's quite
makes
unisex,
it-
some of
which
the
is good.
pieces. And the backpacks were really nice
Yeah.
as well, bags were nice.
Yes, they were.
With the teddy shoved in,
Yeah, yeah.
in pink.
And actually, it was quite. He's using quite a nice pink there, a sort of.
Oh,
No.
Who have we got here?
There's no sheds, so I'm guessing this must be not Craig.
Who do we think this is?
It doesn't say anywhere, does it? It should say anywhere.
No, that's a mistake, really.
Yeah, I think I went to this sort of 3-up show last season and I didn't know who was who, which was a bit annoying.
Me too. I was there. Yeah, they don't
And that
announce.
was,
Yeah.
that was the one with the planks, wasn't it?
Well, let's hope they're
Yeah,
listening.
exactly,
or
yeah.
Let's hope they'll watch us eventually, and we can all say, "Please tell us."
And
who the hell
next
it is."
season they'll announce on a microphone.
Exactly.
yeah.
What are we thinking of this? The colours and the print here.
I love these textured greys. There was a suit before,
Yes.
a short suit with a short sleeve on it, which is a beautiful like waxed linen or something.
The good thing is it doesn't feel very London, as in it feels quite, and that's not dissing London because it feels quite international in that kind of
Yeah.
Rick Owens meets almost.
Yeah.
Really,
Meets
really
Helmut
nice.
Lang.
Meets Helmut
Yeah.
Lang kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah, and he did some organza jackets last season too.
I didn't see last season's one, but
Yes, he did, Stephen. You're right.
But more in multicolour.
That top didn't rock my boat at all. And it's just, if you get something that you really don't like, it can all fall to bits.
Yeah, it's a tiny bit. It's a bit grunge
You
anyway.
lose the fantasy.
It
goes.
goes,
The
suddenly
dream-
there's one
the
thing you
dream
don't
goes.
like and the poor chap bites
That's
the
it.
dust.
done.
But everything else
See
is
ya.
fine.
That's it.
It's skinny. It's a little bit grungy, maybe.
It's a bit sombre, isn't
Mm.
it? We're getting a bit of pink now. Do you think pink's going to be the colour of
Seemingly.
next spring?
Pink again.
Yeah.
I like a bit of skirt.
Me too.
Yeah, I love a bit of skirt on the bloke.
Don't you think most guys would find it really irritating to have something
Wearing
flapping?
Flapping around.
The
By
great
the
skirt
side.
for guys debate. Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure that.
I mean, compared to the other shorts, I really wouldn't like to wear these shorts. I mean, I can wear the big baggy ones.
But not the skinny
These
ones.
are
No, these are too skinny.
For me, anyway.
And they're a little bit short too.
Yeah, you know, this is all too revealing. I think the midi's in for women at the moment, and I think the same applies to men's shorts.
Hamish would wear that actually.
Oh yes, he would. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I've never really liked what he looks like. I think.
You're not going to be invited to his birthday.
I'm not. I never have been.
He was
You know.
Oh,
invited.
love that.
Oh, I
Jacket
love that,
upside
yeah.
down.
What is it?
It's a jacket
Kind of
upside
a-
down.
Oh, right.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. So is that a styling
How many
thing,
little
or-
old ladies would go up to you and say, I think you've got your jacket on upside down? You know, that's the other problem. Off-planet fashion, you know, people look at you quite literally and think, why is he wearing his jacket on?
I mean,
upside
does
Yeah.
this
Something
give,
wrong.
I mean, along, you know, that sort of comment on the Guardian and the boards and stuff like that, does this sort of gimmick headline grabbing thing, it doesn't, I don't know if it can work against it.
It's also very
Yeah.
British, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's eccentric,
Yeah.
and it's a bit
Yeah.
kind of
Being
crazy,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
a bit, you know, a bit dandy and a bit kind of...
Making that statement.
If it works in England,
But
Absolutely, if someone's going to push that kind of crazy extreme thing, it's going to be the London
But the
fashion
thing
week.
is that shirts can work as skirts. I've designed a shirt that works as a skirt with a little
Oh, why
slit.
didn't you
You
wear
can
it
make it work.
today?
Sorry.
Right, you'll,
Forgot.
next time you come,
Yeah.
wear it. No, I think it's very interesting you're talking about England, because to me this is totally London. This has,
that
or
jacket.
city.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
doesn't
This
have
one.
a resonance for the rest of the country. How do you think it's styled and put together? What do you think, Harry?
I mean, it's very simple,
Like
but it's still very coherent. I mean, the hair's
Yeah.
all the same.
I like
It's
the
kind of-
hair. I think the hair's
It's
great.
almost trying to do that RAF kind of thing where you have that army of boys that have all got a similar kind of look. Not
And they're all
as
kind
Quite a
of-
strong
yeah,
look.
They're all a
strong,
bit
yeah.
skinny
Yeah.
and a bit
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, hi.
Oh, that was the designer, because there was a little glimpse of,
Oh, we
we
didn't see
didn't
the
get the
last one.
face of the designer on the last one, but he was wearing baggy denim
So we couldn't
shorts
tell.
from the back, and I thought, God, yeah, I'd get those baggy denim ones. But that was the designer, obviously.
Do you think the rest of England dresses differently to London?
Oh,
Do you
yes.
think London is
I
bubble?
know they do.
So London's
I
a kind of
think-
a bubble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a Newcastle club and a
Yeah.
Liverpool club,
And a
Manchester
Manchester club,
they
yeah.
all do
Oh
really
yeah, but I
dress
think
up.
I
yeah,
think they
Yeah.
dress up even
Oh, yeah.
more than London,
Liverpool,
actually.
yeah.
Glasgow
Yeah,
years
but-
ago. Oh my God.
God,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
you know, tell
Leeds,
us how to do
Leeds.
it.
Oh, look,
yeah, but-
Absolutely.
It's a look.
Oh,
but
here we
Stephen,
go.
we've got to come back to what you say, because really, selling clothes is not anything to do with clubs. It's selling
a
it
different thing.
to guys who wear them in the
Hang on a
street.
minute.
This
We've
is
got to
obviously great,
concentrate on
yeah.
this.
This is interesting.
He did the fabulous sheds last season on your head.
Oh, this is the
I'm not-
same bloke?
Yeah.
Has to be, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's moved on from woodwork and he's now doing a course in
Balaclava,
Printing.
yeah.
It's a major one
That's
here.
amazing.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go.
That's
here we go.
amazing.
Here
Wicked.
we go.
And that's... Oh, they're holding them.
It's
Oh,
a
that's
shame
a
he's holding
Pity,
it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It should have
Yeah.
been part of the whole thing.
It probably was and broke, yeah, before we went on stage.
So tie-dye.
So
it
they
tied
can
up?
I
get
think-
showed more than once then. Okay.
I think that's sort of
alright.
fab, like
Yeah.
neo rave.
Mm. I've always liked a bit of tie-dye.
I don't really know what that is. Is it kind of cardboard or something? Some kind
It looks
of...
like cardboard.
Yeah, cardboard.
Do you think it's obligatory to buy that as well as the garments?
do you think they sell that? Do you think he sells that?
You have to
If
go.
only-
Yeah, I think
the
you could,
coveted
put
piece.
that on your coffee table. or
Yeah,
something,
it is the coffee table.
It is the coffee table,
I
exactly.
mean, it is an interesting
Does it come with coffee?
Yeah, I hope so.
You know, with Nocky's masks
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that, this whole comment on anonymity, do you know, I mean, it's got a very deep thing behind it as well, you know, in time of celebrity and everything like that.
Yeah.
It actually, you know, there are quite deep stories that come up behind what British fashion
Yeah, but,
actually
no,
have to present.
But in fact, Mark, what you're doing by carrying that in front of you
It's
is
bringing
attracting people,
attention.
but still
Yeah.
keeping a barrier
Yeah.
between.
But not
Yeah.
showing... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't see any of the
that's,
models'
you know,
faces.
that's intriguing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the sort of stuff that Britain's famous for.
Allure,
coming
yeah.
up with these.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
You could stick him on your wall, couldn't you? You know.
Yeah.
Totally. And I love those.
I know what you're thinking.
If he comes around, I probably would. I love these little
shoes.
ankle bands that they've got.
Yeah.
You know, what's that?
Those
think
colours
I've
are
seen
great
that
as well.
before.
I love the I love all the colour. This explosion of kind of
The way he's done
rainbow
tie-dye
colour.
is just really strong, because normally it kind of feels a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah,
but
a bit washed
like,
out, yeah.
Where he's just really
Now
gone
there's
for
a
it.
patch on the front of something and it looks all right there.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I know I'm all about the hat. What looks so genius is he's got a hat on and like 2 hankies trying
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
And fantastic.
Yeah.
So really simple but really
Yeah.
effective.
That's
Really
amazing.
simple,
The colours
really
are
simple and
beautiful.
really
Yeah.
effective.
The colours are fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, these ones are very African. The other ones
Yeah.
earlier, with the blue ones, were very Mediterranean.
Yeah.
very
And you know,
summery.
when the dresses is that long tail piece at the back and the whole
Yeah.
sort of that sort of Muslim-y sort of
Yeah.
longer cut thing, I just think that's such a rocking look for
Yeah.
blokes.
Yeah.
And you know, it's been around a little bit, but I love that.
And the matte and the shiny, really cleverly done.
And it's good that he's doing black for summer as well.
Yeah.
It's just like really strong,
Yeah.
definite, not just going with pastels.
Black on black on black.
Then a multicoloured explosion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, there's a lot of contrast in this show, isn't there?
Are we thinking this is the strongest fashion statement
Of the three that we've seen.
of the 3 we've seen?
I think it's possibly another Guardian.
For you, I
cover.
think,
yeah, for me,
yeah,
definitely.
I can
For me,
tell.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly a good press story.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think with the
certainly it's a good
accessories
press
and
Did you
things.
like the clothes as well?
So they were really nice pieces. I love the colour. I love the use of colour.
I love the banding
mandarin
round the
colour
neck,
jacket.
Yeah.
round the ankles.
Yeah.
Around the face.
You know, round
And
the
if you take
face.
just
It's
like
just great.
if you strip it back and just take one thing from each look, whether it's the hat or whether it's the jacket, it's really wearable.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
just take
Yeah.
one piece from each.
Which is
each
what
look.
you have to do, because the styling tricks are not
Yeah.
going to be given to you in the shop.
Absolutely.
And I like the fact there's a notch lapel and all those things going on. So it is quite real clothes.
What do you think
within
was
that
his?
crazy
What was
look.
his inspiration? Do you think was it African culture, or was it camouflage, army and naval
I
camouflage?
think there's African stuff in
More
there
African,
for sure.
It almost looks like early hip hop. It reminds me of Cypress Hill back in the early 90s, those kind of bucket
Yeah.
hats that
Yeah.
they
There
used
he
to
is.
Oh,
wear.
he's
kind of-
sweet. Oh, it's Charlie. Recognise that haircut anywhere.
Hi.
Really strong.
And they're off.
Okay, is he the winner out of these 3?
Definitely
Yes.
for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Commercially, though, I don't think so.
No, I think the middle designer was
Probably the most
commercial.
Should I tell you about commercial? Commercial is not necessarily a t-shirt. Commercial is an outfit which actually you would want to spend a lot of money on and sort of holds its own. If you want commercial, you can go and buy a Gap t-shirt. What people come to
Well-
for London is something which has got a strong personality, and that is commercial.
You're right and you're wrong. You're right to a degree, but you're wrong in that commercial is mass. You've got, if you're trying to be commercial, you don't make a statement about one piece. You make a statement that a lot of guys will want to buy. Now, which of those 3 will a lot of guys be likely to buy? Certainly not the last one, although I think we're all agreed that's the most exciting.
Yeah.
Is B Store a really influential sort of thing? Because to me, that middle guy was B Store, and they've sort of promoted quite a lot of sort of men's.
They have, but
Cutting edge
they lost their type. They're
designs.
not B Store anymore. They're now
Oh,
called
no.
Other Store.
Oh right,
Yeah,
okay,
but they're still going. The 2, Kirk and Matthew, who run it. But
right.
that definitely fits, like you say, that bit more avant-garde, but yeah. not
And in
too
a way, is
commercial.
that sort of what people are buying? Are they quite influential in terms of men's fashion? Because, you know, it's quite a current shop. isn't it?
I think so, in the sense that they were
Do you?
the 2 guys were kind of often rocking their turned-up trousers a few years ahead of the current trend, where so many guys are wanting to wear their trousers turned up,
Yeah.
and they were doing that for a few years. So I think they've influenced a lot of what's happened through
Yeah.
the Top Man kind of era. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still influencing
No.
Top Man so much now. But
Will these pieces be retailed in Top Man?
Not necessarily. In fact,
Okay.
I think not,
Okay.
actually. I think it's just a platform.
Platform.
for them.
Yeah.
This is
What do
sponsor.
we feel about the possibility of them doing better outside England? You know, if people, if say Mr. Porter buys it, or ASOS or whoever, would they do better on retail, on e-tail rather than retail? I mean, would the last lot sell in African countries, or do you think that they would say, well, It's just a pastiche.
They wouldn't almost need it in African countries because they can do those
They
prints
can do it
so
already.
Much
Yeah.
better.
so much better than
Yeah.
our kind of versions of such.
I'm trying to think really what we're saying about this. The first show we've seen, we've got 2 more days. What do you think is the message from that? That London's very, very cool, London's trying to grow up and be commercial, or London doesn't give a damn, the young designers are having fun and someone's helping them?
I think all three were so different as well. So London's a
Right.
bit of everything.
Okay, well-
London's eclectic.
Okay,
Yeah.
which was doing what?
Well, the middle designer was very wearable.
He was the most commercial. We would
Very
agree on that,
commercial.
yeah?
The last designer was very colourful, outlandish, avant-garde, especially in the styling with the big pieces. And the first designer was maybe somewhere in the middle.
I mean, the first designer to me is sporty, the second designer's tailored, and the third designer's cultural. You know, they've all got
Yeah,
they've
that's
all
an interesting
got their
distinction.
thing to say,
Yeah.
and I think they're all looking pretty good. I don't actually relate to the tailored one, and that might be because I'm grossly overweight. You know.
Well, you're not alone here. You're amongst friends. You're amongst friends this afternoon, Mark. What do you want to say? You've always got something to say.
I thought they were great as the variety, and I think, as Jodie said, it's the variety of London which is the interesting thing. I think they will sell around the world, and I think through e-commerce,
I
which is
hope you're right.
a huge thing now. I mean, bigger than most people realise. That they will sell in China and Japan and
Definitely.
Latin America and North America and Finland. The great thing about that is that, yes, of course, maybe you want to be sold in Harvey Nichols, but if you go with an online retailer, you're sold around the world. And for so many designers now, e-commerce is more important than individual stores.
So is the most important person who's sitting in the audience today Jeremy Langmead from Mr. Porter?
Yeah.
More important than Selfridges?
He is, but I don't think he's going to buy any of those collections at all.
No, because that's not the
Then he's going to go
demographic.
to Hardy Avies
That's
and
not the demographic.
Because their customers way older and way more conservative than any of
Yeah,
that.
sure. And that's a pity because you tell me, I don't know, but it seems to me there's no e-tailer or e-commerce outlet for really
There is.
extraordinary clothes.
I mean, there are a few,
Are
but
there?
the one here would be LNCC,
Right.
which was set up by John Skelton, who used to be at Okini, and his kind of general style and aesthetic kind of fits very much what Craig was doing, that whole Damier Doma kind of baggy, oversized pieces. So I can imagine someone like Craig could get stuck somewhere like there, and they've got a very strong international base, which they buy from a lot of Japanese designers that fit that kind of slightly left of centre kind of menswear. So
with clothes like these, Harris, how many, when you say if he gets bought,
Yeah.
how much has someone got to buy to make some sort of an impact? 1 or 2 garments isn't enough, clearly.
no, but then as a new designer, that's kind of often the best that they can often hope for, in the sense that if you get 1 or 2 stockists who will start championing you, then you use that as your calling card to try and get more stockists. But essentially, you need people who are going to spend proper money, and they need to be
Yeah,
spending
yeah.
upwards of 5-10 grand per store minimum, realistically, to make some kind of dent for them to kind of properly progress season after season.
And what about the alternative, the young magazines? I assume that they would be very interested, certainly in the last
They will
one.
lap all
They lap it up.
Yeah,
lap it
yeah,
up.
ID and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
perfect.
Another man.
Yeah.
Yes, another man I would have thought, certainly.
But that's what we do really well in London. We create things that are kind of often very press-worthy, and it's kind of always that dichotomy of press-worthy or sellable, and should you even bother? But it's kind of finding that middle ground. But
Well, what I think is interesting that's happening is that what designers are doing and what magazines are doing are closer here in London. And I think there are more cool, modern magazines published here than in any other capital in the world. you know, I live in Soho and I go to my newsagent, and every week there's a new magazine. Always
crazy.
hugely expensive. But
Yeah.
I say to him, I say to him, do
the
they?
same.
Yeah, literally.
You know, I say to him, do they sell? And he said, oh, I've reordered already. You know?
I always wondered that.
amazing.
Because you go in there, all these magazines you've never heard
They
of. I
do
always
sell.
wondered who's buying these £20 magazines, but they do.
Yes,
So-
they absolutely
It's
do.
clearly none of us.
Yeah.
But
No,
Japanese
my God, they're so
tourists.
expensive. You know?
Because they buy all the
Very
clothes on the
expensive.
internet.
Right, yeah, right.
Okay, so we think it's a good introduction to the week for us.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we look forward to seeing what's going to come in the next 2 days. And we look forward to seeing you as well for our next one, which will be tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed, and thank my team very much indeed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colin.